we need it to be seamless. It has to be fun. You shouldn't have to get up there and tediously navigate your way. That said, it's a tremendous development challenge to figure out the right balances. For instance, do we make it, when we first did it, we had you would hold a button and it would just automatically parkour you to all the other branches. So, and you could just kind of hold that and hit forward and it would just do that. But it felt weird. It felt cheating. It wasn't that much fun. The alternative is you have to do it, but you might fall, you might slip, then you have to hit jump. We're trying to figure out that perfect balance. And that's why we're doing all this gameplay testing. And what I love about all the people in Dev Club that test this is that they are ruthless and honest with their feedback about what sucks and what doesn't feel good, because that's exactly what we need. And that also validates our experience too.
Our goal is to really make, let's just call it like vertical movement, something that you can kind of do if you want, something you can really get into if you want, or if you don't want, you don't have to, but we'll make it kind of part of the game.
Ultimately, what we want you to be able to do as a player is, if you're having fun in the trees, you should be able to live in the trees as much as possible, or call it vertical spaces, because there's going to be buildings and cities and stuff that you can go through as well. And if you like being on the ground, then that's what should work for you too. So we really are trying to figure out and let the player define their experience. Your eye just kind of gets glued to that mini map all the time. It's sort of like health bars on everything all the time. You tend to just watch a health bar go down instead of being immersed in the moment, but it's tough to get away from that as well. So if we can avoid mini maps, we're going to try.
We don't want to subtract from the gameplay and the experience of feeling immersed. So the more we can reduce our UI and what we're telegraphing to the player and kind of just have them discover it through gameplay, the better.
I would like people to be very, to feel very in the moment and to have this sense that combat matters and that your survival is on the line. And so it's a little different than, say, God of War, where you're Kratos and you're a tank and you can take the hits. Here, your character is fragile, and we have in the story, it's written in how she has some protection, so she can get hit and not get, obliterated in one shot. But we want the stakes to be high. Can we create that sense of fear? That idea that first off, survive, then observe, then figure out how to approach that enemy. And then as you get more powerful, you can either get greedier and you can get more aggressive and get in there, or you can also be able to be more strategic and maybe take them down faster or more efficiently, depending on how it's going. So we're really trying to put the power to the player there.
The idea here really is that because there's a lot of opportunities to have different experiences, whether it's more of a stealth-based combat or whether it's kind of just a run and gun with no guns, of course, or maybe something a bit more strategic, we want to have enemies that can kind of adapt to that and provide different experiences depending on what the player decides to make and the decisions they decide to go with. So pretty wide in terms of what you could do with the combat.
Companions are really important to me. I mean, me personally, from the games I grew up on, I grew up with a lot of RPGs where you could build a party or grow one as you went. But yes, we're planning heavily on having a rabbit companion for Red for part of the game. We don't want him to overstay his welcome. We want him to be, you want to be happy when he's there. You want to miss him when he's not, and kind of have him come and go throughout the game. I did want a fairy companion as well. I don't know if she's going to make it into this game there. Thumbelina is a very famous fairy from the fairy tales, although we're not planning on having these companions influence combat. So, for you to be able to control them or them to, attack enemies in some way. At least for now, that's the system. That might be too broad for the size team that we have.
I find that a lot of Unreal Engine games have an Unreal Engine look. It looks good, but they all start to kind of have the similar look, regardless of the type of game. Our approach is a bit different because we're looking actually not so much at other games, more like artwork. So our focus is on making it feel as painterly as possible. And I want to quantify that, not stylized painterly. I mean like oil painting painterly, classical lighting, chiaroscuro, to get like a Renaissance feel with more of like a standardized modern camera setup. So we're really aiming for more of like a stylized classical lighting setup versus a specific game reference. Will there be customization, playstyle, or cosmetics, or both?
Absolutely. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you want to be able to customize. I mean, we want the player to play their game and their experience. So like we said earlier in this cast, it's like, you play. Do you like to parkour? Do you like to be nimble and agile? Do you like to go with a more stealthy experience? Do you want to do repositioning stealth where it's almost like a ninja and you're distracting and then moving quickly into other areas? It's the same way with the customization. Can you customize your character to look the way you want? I think there's plenty of opportunities to do different outfits for Red, different stylization, cosmetic stuff that we can change. Fewer weapons, then perhaps you can name the weapon after you forge it. Just
That's
things
sick.
like that give you like a little more of that ownership and pride in your character, in the choices you've made. We're all about it. There's a lot of humanoid animals. So we have bear folk, we have fox folk, we have rabbit folk, all different. We have goat folk in this as well, humanoid goats. And our narrative writer has given them rich lore and backstories of how these races operate and exist in this world. And what's really cool is they will have different fighting styles and approaches to combat. And my big thing with enemy types is I want them to belong in the world. I want it to make sense. We're in the long haul here. We're not just out to make one game. We're out to build a studio that is reminiscent of the studios that we loved growing up in the past. So we're excited. Momentum is growing. We're really stoked about what's coming. So I'd say let's just wrap it up there.